Hey friends, I have some all-new vintage primitive farmhouse fall DIYs made out of Dollar Tree items I'm super excited to share with you, so come craft with me. I'm Sarah and welcome to my channel Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me in the future. And now let's get to these Dollar Tree DIYs. This first DIY, we are going to be using this little 6-tray muffin tin from the Dollar Tree, and these are still $1.25 at the Dollar Tree right now. So we're going to start by taking some of my Waverly chalk paint and the color of ink here, and I'm just going to give this one good coat of the chalk paint because I want this to not be that bright silver. I want to make this primitive and grungy, so we're going to start by giving it one good coat of black. Now, as I'm doing this, you can see that I'm not going to completely fill in the actual inside of the muffin tins. I'm just going to go right around the edge because these are going to be filled in with things, so you won't see down in the bottom of them, but you do want that top edge and just maybe, slightly over to be covered in paint because that might show through a little bit. And I'll go ahead and do one coat on the back side as well, so the whole pan is uniform. This doesn't have to be 100% covered. I will say the chalk paint does a really good job of covering with just one coat. It is a little thicker. It adheres really well to the metal, but if there's a little bit of streak here or there of the metal shining through, that's okay, because we're going to grunge this a little bit too to give it that nice primitive vintage look. So if there's a little bit of silver shining through here or there, it looks like it's maybe worn up, that's absolutely okay. It just will add to the whole effect. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and I'm just going to go here or there and just add a little bit of dry brushing this on here and there, dabbing it around, give it a little bit of that bow rust underneath look. And I'm going to do this on both the front and the back of the muffin tin because I like my backs to look finished and uniform as well. I'm also using a really soft bristle brush to do this, so that way there's not a lot of, don't want many brush strokes or brush lines in it, just some darker little brown rusty looking spots on it. Next, I'm going to take my matte finish Mod Podge and I'm going to take some cinnamon. And the Mod Podge is going to do two things. One, it's going to seal it in this black paint underneath so that it doesn't chip or scratch, because on that metal it can scratch easily. The Mod Podge will seal it and keep it from doing that. But also I'm going to take the cinnamon and I'm going to sprinkle it here or there in the wet Mod Podge to add some grunging to this. And I'm not going to cover the entire thing in cinnamon. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it around here or there. I don't want it completely covered, just some spots You know, it looks like some spots are kind of rusty, that faux rust look, and I'm going to press the cinnamon down into the Mod Podge. I'm going to sprinkle a little on the edges here too. I always love grunging with cinnamon. It makes every project just smell so good. Now I'm only going to add the cinnamon to the top. I'm not going to do it on the back side of this. And once I have the cinnamon on here, on all the places I want it, I'm going to go back over it with another layer of the Mod Podge. And the cinnamon might smear a little bit, and that's okay. Also, I do want to add, if you're new to grunging, be sure to put your Mod Podge in a separate container when you're going back over your cinnamon. Otherwise, you will get cinnamon all inside your Mod Podge bottle. And then any future projects you do will have cinnamon on them whether you want them to or not. Now, some people also will just have a separate bottle. If you do a lot of grunging, just have a separate bottle that is specifically for grunging, so that way if it gets Mod Podge or coffee grounds down in it, that's okay. It'll just add to the grunge effect of the next project. But if you don't want that, be sure to put it in a separate container. Now, as my Mod Podge is almost dry, while it's still tacky, I'm just going to go back over here in a couple places and sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top there. It'll just add another layer of color, different color layer with that cinnamon. Now on the back, I am just going to add the Mod Podge only. I'm not going to do cinnamon grunging on the back side of this. And once it's all dry, this is what it looks like. It smells really good. The paint is all sealed nice and well. It shouldn't chip if you bang it against something. And it's got that beautiful primitive grunging that I love. Next, I'm going to take some Spanish moss, and I'm going to make almost like a little nest of my Spanish moss, and I'm going to add some hot glue down into the bottom and the sides of these muffin tins, and I'm going to tuck my Spanish moss down in here. You can also find the Spanish moss at the Dollar Tree if yours happens to have it in. Mine has not had Spanish moss in forever, it seems like. I'm beginning to wonder if they'll ever get it back. But if you can't find it at your Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, all those also carry it. Even Amazon, you can find it. I'm just going to take my Spanish moss. I'm going to do this for all 6 of the muffin tins. Next, I'm going to be taking these 3-pack of these little almost velvet burnt orange pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. These come in packs of 3, so I'm going to need 2 packs of these. And they have these little alligator clips on the bottom. We don't need them. But since they're kind of hard to pull off and I didn't want it to rip that fabric, I'm just going to leave them on there. I'm going to add some hot glue on the bottom of these, and I'm going to just tuck them right down into my muffin tins. We're making some little primitive pumpkin muffins. If you're enjoying this video so far, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, and if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button so that you can craft with me in the future. Next, I'm going to take some of this Black and Cream Gingham homespun fabric. Now you can pick whatever ribbon or fabric that suits your decor or what you like, but I'm going to use this Black and Cream because it really gives fall vibes to me. I really like the Black and Cream when doing fall projects. And I'm just going to cut about an inch, inch and a quarter, I guess rip this one, strip of fabric. And I'm just going to wrap it around my muffin tin here towards the top and tie it off in a knot. And I'm going to want my tails, I want them to stay pretty long, about to the end of the pan approximately-ish. I want them to hang down in between. Then I'm going to take this rusty star that you can get off Amazon or Factory Direct, and I'm going to hot glue it right in the center of my knot where I tied my fabric. Next, I want to make a little paper tag. But I wanted bigger ones than what these the smaller ones I get off Amazon. I wanted to make one bigger, and I didn't have any on hand, so I'm going to make one. I'm just going to take some cardstock, and I'm just going to trace out the basic shape of a tag here. It's not necessarily perfect, but close enough. This is primitive, so I always find with primitive pieces, it's perfectly imperfect a lot of times. It shows that handmade element, and which is definitely not perfect. And I think that just adds to the charm of it. So I'm just going to cut this out in the basic shape of a tag. And I'm going to use my little hole puncher, and I'm going to pop a hole right in the top where you'd find the hole for a little tag. And using my black Sharpie marker, I'm going to write pumpkin muffins on my little tag. Now this tag is just a little too pristine, doesn't quite match the rusticness of the rest of the project. So I'm just going to crinkle this paper up here, just kind of rough it around and give it some crinkles and creases. And then I'm going to go back in with my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to go around the edges and make some just darker distress look on the edges, and then even just go over the whole thing slightly to give it that aged paper look. If you have distress ink, you could also use that, but I always use the antiquing wax. That's always what I have on hand, and it works perfect for this as well. But you're welcome to use whatever it is you have on hand. No need to go buy extra special stuff. I'm going to hot glue my little tag here just right underneath my star, kind of hanging off to the side. I think this is such a cute little project, y'all. It looks adorable to display in your kitchen for fall. At the top, I'm just going to take some of this jute twine that I get from Walmart. It's the 4-ply jute twine, and I'm going to put it through this hole here at the top. Now these muffin tents from the Dollar Tree, they have a hole in both the top and the bottom on both sides, so you can pick whichever side you want to be your top and your bottom. But I'm going to put that through there and just tie it up. That way there I have a way to hang it if I want to hang it on something. And when I tie my knot here, I'm just take a little bit of hot glue, just a small amount. I'm just going to put it right on the edges of this knot. And I'm going to do that before I trim off those excess pieces there. And that's just going to keep my knot from unraveling. So when I trim that off down close, my knot won't come apart. Sometimes it'll slide a little bit when you cut them real short. And here we go. Look how absolutely adorable and rustic. I personally love this project. And it's so budget friendly. For this next DIY, I'm going to be using this 8x12 burlap little bag. Now, this is one that I got from KP Home Collections, and I've actually had it in my stash for a while. It says Old Crow on it. That's just stenciled on the bag. But if you have the burlap bags that are just plain, you could use a paint pen or a stencil and stencil that on yourself, or if you have a Cricut, you could even make a decal, or you could just leave the bag plain. Now I'm going to stuff my bag, and I'm going to be using just plastic bags here because this is a great way to upcycle plastic bags, and they're free. Everybody, I think, usually always has some of these plastic shopping bags laying around their home, and this is just a great way to reuse these and recycle these and not have to use or go buy stuffing for this project. And I'm just going to fill my bag nice and full here. I want to leave a little bit of space at the top here because I'm going to fold my bag over here. As you can see, I'm just going to fold the top down a couple inches. Now, if you're using the, say the plain bags from Amazon, they have the drawstring on them here. So if you're using these for this project, you could just fold the top down right over top that drawstring. And I think these plain bags would also be really cute for this project as well. Now I'm going to take these little mini sunflowers. These are from the Dollar Tree. Their florals are now $1.75 each, but these are really cute. And I only needed one bundle of them. And I'm also going to take some of this dried wheatgrass from Hobby Lobby. I think I paid like $4.99 for that entire bundle of wheatgrass, and I have used it for a lot of projects. And I'm going to just take a handful of the wheat, and I'm just going to cut this down to the size of my bag because those stems are really long. I think this dried wheat and these sunflowers just look so pretty together. I love sunflowers to decorate for fall. I'm just going to place these together here. Just arrange them until they kind of look good. This won't be the final arrangement, but I was just kind of getting an idea. And I realized I needed to trim them down a little more because those stems, like I said, they're just really long. Now I'm going through with my hand and I'm just kind of creating a space in the center of these plastic bags that I used to stuff my burlap bag with so that I can slide my stems right down in the center. I'm just gonna tuck them down in there really close. Make sure all my plastic bags are tucked down in. And then I'm just going to gather it around my floral stems here. Gather it tight. If you're using the bags with the drawstring, then you could just pull it tight here to close it off. But since mine does not have the drawstring, I'm just going to take some of my jute twine and I'm going to use it to tie off and wrap around my floral stems here in the top of my bag. And I'm going to tie it down real tight in a knot. Next, I'm going to go in with some more of this black and cream gingham homespun fabric, and I'm just going to tie this around my twine there to hide my twine, and I'm going to tie it just in a little knot here, and then I'll cut off those extra twine tails. I thought I was going to leave them at first, but then I just didn't like how that looked. And here it is. This is adorable to just pop on a little shelf for fall. You'll have to let me know what you think. For this last DIY, I'm going to be using these 24-inch stacking pumpkins that you can get at the Dollar Tree. Now, last year they were $5, and this year they've raised the price to $7, which was a little more than I liked, but I still think these turned out really well. And in the end, for $7, it still ends up being a really budget-friendly and really cute craft. So these come in 3 pieces if you've never seen them before, and they pop together as you can see like this, and they're pretty. These are the white ones. They come in white and orange, but I'm using the white ones for this project. I'm going to start off by giving my largest and bottom pumpkin, I'm going to give it a coat of my Waverly chalk paint in the color of ink. And the chalk paint works really well with these. One coat covers really well. It's thick, it gives it a nice texture, and it adheres really well to this plastic. And yes, I'm going to be making some stacked primitive pumpkins here out of these. For the center pumpkin, I am going to be using orange to paint these, not to color, to paint it. And I didn't have any of the orange chalk paint. Waverly makes a pumpkin, which would be perfect for this, but I did not have any. So I'm just using this acrylic one that I had. This is actually from the Dollar Tree. And I will say the acrylic paint did not cover as well as the chalk paint does. So whereas the chalk paint, I only needed 1 coat, and this acrylic paint, it's definitely going to take 2 coats. So I set aside that first one to dry, and I'm moving on to my little top pumpkin, which I'm using Waverly white chalk paint to cover it. The top pumpkin was already white, but I wanted the texture to match the other 2 pumpkins. When you add the chalk paint to it, it really gives it that it gives it a thicker look. It takes away that plastic look that they have otherwise. So now here I'm going back over my orange with the second coat, and that's covering much better. Now we want to start distressing and grunging these a little bit, so I'm going to go in with my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to start dry brushing the Waverly Antique Wax over top of my pumpkins. I'm going to do it to all three of them. I'm starting here with the orange, and I'm just dry brushing it real lightly. As you can see, I'm dabbing it on my paper here. I don't want to get too much on my brush, and I'm using a really soft bristle brush for this as well, because I don't want there to be a lot of I don't want to see a lot of strokes, brush strokes in my work. I just want it to be nice and smooth, kind of just looking like the color of the pumpkin. I want it to look as natural as possible. Not like paint thrown on there. And you'll notice here at the white, I'm definitely focusing on those little grooves and ridges of the pumpkin. I want to get some of that antique wax down in there and accentuate those lines and grooves so that they don't get lost in that white. Just highlight those. And once I have my Waverly Antique Wax on here the way I like it, I'm going to go in with my matte finish Mod Podge, and I'm going to start giving these pumpkins a good coat of this Mod Podge. And I'm going to start off by just doing half of the pumpkin first, because we're going to add a little bit of grunge to these, because I want them to be nice, primitive, because we want some gorgeous rustic stacked primitive pumpkins here. So we need to add a little grunging to these as well as the antique wax. So I'm going to put my Mod Podge over half of it to start with, and then I'm going to go in with my cinnamon, and I'm going to start sprinkling the cinnamon on my pumpkin. And I'm not going to go completely covered. I'm just going to go kind of from the top down. So maybe a little more heavily on the top and let it just kind of waterfall down the pumpkin a little bit. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side of my pumpkin. This Mod Podge not only is used for the grunging, but this also is going to seal that paint in, because anytime you paint on plastic, it can chip easily if you don't seal it with something. So the Mod Podge acts as a double feature here. It's used for the grunge and also to seal it. Now, once I have my cinnamon on, I'm going to go back over with my Mod Podge over top of my cinnamon again. And it will smear a little bit here, but like I said, that's okay. That just adds to the effect. And I'm going to just repeat this process with all three sections of my pumpkin, with the black, with the orange, and with the white. I can say with this acrylic orange, even though it didn't cover as well and took 2 coats, I really do like the effect it gave with the paint. It really has that kind of two-tone. Some sections are brighter orange, others are almost a yellowy kind of look. It just kind of naturally did that as it was painted over top of this white plastic, and I actually really like the effect that it gave. It does have some realistic pumpkin coloring, I think, at least. As close as you can get with, plastic Dollar Tree pumpkins. Now, the last thing I'm going to do when I come to these grunging is after my Mod Podge and cinnamon mixture has dried for a little while, before it's completely dry, while it's still tacky, I'm going to go back over it with cinnamon one more time, and I'm just going to do a light sprinkle on top of these one more time. So you're going to have that Mod Podged, sealed in cinnamon, and then on top you're going to have in the top layer a lighter layer of cinnamon. It kind of gives it a multiple tone effect, and I think it turns out really pretty. Now for a stem, if you watched a couple videos ago, I showed how to use paper bags to make pumpkin stems, and if you missed that one, I'll link that video down in the description box if you're new to my channel. But this is one of those paper bag pumpkin stems, and the base of it, I didn't fully Mod Podge the base because I wanted it to be moldable over top of this plastic stem. Just going to use my hot glue and just tack it down really good there. Get all your little edges glued down, because I wanted this to have a nice rustic gnarled stem, not just that little plastic one that is just on these. That wasn't enough for me. Next, I'm going to take my Spanish moss and I'm going to hot glue it around the base of this top stem here. Now that these are dry, I want to pop them together. So give me a little extended view here because these are kind of tall once they're all put together. So they just pop together and you kind of have to push them down pretty good, but they're pretty secure once you get them together. So next I'm going to take my Spanish moss and I'm going to start hot gluing my Spanish moss around the top and between the pumpkins here. And as I'm doing this is kind of also extra securing the pumpkins together. So when the end of the season, I probably won't try to take these apart to store them. I'll just store them as they are. And I'm just going to glue this, hot glue the Spanish moss all the way around these in between the pumpkins. And then I'll do the same thing between the orange and the white one as well. Now I want to make some little pumpkin vine tendrils. So I'm using this rusty wire that I've had. I'm not even sure where this originally came from. I think my husband actually found it and gave it to me. Now you can get rusty wire off Factory Direct and Amazon. So, and I'm going to take and just cut a large section, and then I'm just using my Sharpie marker here to wrap my wire around. You could also use the wired jute twine. There you saw my son. He kind of had to come in and see what mom was doing. He loves to see what mom's recording. But you could also use the wired jute twine to make pumpkin tendrils too that you can find at the Dollar Tree. Now to finish this off, I have these metal crows. Now these I originally found, I believe, at the flea market up in Berlin, Ohio, in Amish country. But Factory Direct has a lot of these little metal accents, and I'll leave the link to Factory Direct. But I'm going to hot glue these two little crows onto my pumpkins, one at the top and one here on the top of my bottom section. And oh my goodness, I absolutely am in love with how these Dollar Tree stack pumpkins turned out. You would never know that these were originally just those plastic pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. Leave me a comment and let me know which of today's projects were your favorite and if you plan to try any of these. As you can see, the leaves are starting to get a little dry and fall on the ground. It's really making me anxious for some gorgeous fall weather. And Molly had to come check out the new pumpkins. She thought they smelled really good. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I hope you'll consider giving this video a like, maybe share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and craft with me in the future. And don't forget to hit the little notification bell so that you are always notified when I upload a video and you don't miss out on any future fun, budget-friendly DIYs for around the home. So until next time, happy crafting, friends.